company would do that. The thing is though, I'm down to talk a bit before I sleep. Yo, I'll call you right now. Yo.
Yo, what up? Can you hear me?
Yeah. So basically, what I was saying, I'm going to turn you up a little bit. So basically, what I was saying is, I think that I agree that Argos being released when it was definitely a problem, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it was obvious why they did it to the free to play players, right? You potentially turn them into people who will spend money, and if you lose them, you lose them. That's kind of their plan, right? I think the thing that's like worse about it is the fact that a lot of the whales, they're like, wait, I whaled for this really easy throwaway content. Is there going to be any good content for me? And then the whales leave. So you kind of attack both ends and you cannibalize both audiences, and they feel like they're morons for spending the money.
I feel like what kind of happens is like logically, you're right, and I think that
Wait, my audio
it
just
doesn't
cut
even
out.
matter.
Wait, what'd you say?
Go ahead.
Fuck. Can you guys hear him? The audio's cutting out for me.
You good now?
Potentially, but I might have to call you on my phone. My
Okay.
here, you know what I'm gonna do? Here, wait, I'm gonna call you on my phone. Sorry, my headset's like a little bit fucked up. Guys, tell me if you can hear him all right when I do this. It should be fine. Yo,
Hey,
can you guys still hear him? Can you just count really quick?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Cool.
6.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be better. Sadly, the way that Mia plugged in her headset, it
Oh.
keeps slipping out.
Shit, okay. That sucks.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why. It's just like it keep like usually. I thought for a little while that it was stuck, but I got it.
Is
It's
that
the
her
other.
headset that you're wearing?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's good.
yeah. But yeah, what were you saying?
What was I saying? I think a lot of it is like perception, right? Because I feel like a lot of people now have like created the perception, and like this is kind of like what happens with games. It's kind of like, ironically, with AGS, it's what happened with New World. Is like the game just kind of got this perception, and it's like even whenever they do something really cool, like I do genuinely think that dungeon that we did with the guys the other day was really fucking cool, right? Aesthetically, I loved it. But you know, like people have already kind of made up their mind that like New World is a dead game and like it sucks. So it's just like it doesn't even matter. Like the new content patches or anything like that doesn't really change the perception. And it's easy to say. I think there's some people that will say like, well, that's just kind of like Twitch chat centric thinking, but these like expectations are reflected in the player base. Like if you look at the amount of people that are playing the game, there's so few of them comparatively, and these changes haven't really moved the dot at all.
I do agree with the perception, and the perception
Yeah.
that was actually in a less eloquent way what I was saying about people who did already spend money feeling like less secure in what they did, feeling like they knew less about the game as well. Your perception of what you're doing gets very skewed. But I will say with the player numbers, I do disagree with that because we don't know how many of them were bots, and we don't know how many, like as just people who are looking at the Steam stats and things like that, it's tough to figure out what the numbers actually mean right now.
It's impossible to really know, but whenever you're getting a lot of feedback and people saying, and this is like a common like conversation point, that people are unhappy and they're like thinking about quitting or they have quit or whatever, and you see that and you see it like coincide with a lower number on the stream, it's kind of easy to say that, well, yeah, probably a lot of it isn't bots, or sorry, it could be bots. It's probably not all bots.
You mean viewership numbers too?
No, I mean like just comments, like conversations online that happen. I mean, I think that definitely matters.
I
It's like
definitely
those are people that are just like playing the game, and I think there's also a lot of people who have like people got like their account banned for like some weird I don't know even really what this is, but there's some reason why people are getting their account banned and shit. So it's just a lot of stuff like that that I think is causing people to just drop off.
I do think one of the biggest problems too is I mean, there's just a lack of communication for sure. So nobody has a roadmap. So like, for example, I have 4 tier 3 alts, right?
Yeah.
And as somebody who has 4 tier 3 alts, in the back of my head all the time, I'm like, did I make a mistake by doing this if like Scouter comes out soon, right? And then I feel like for other people, they're trying to figure out, am I doing the right thing by parking my character here, whether they're free to play or they're whaling? Am I making a mistake by parking my character here and trying to make like gold on the auction house? So I feel like without a roadmap and without discussing a lot of that stuff, the taste in players' mouths is always going to be bad.
I think that's fundamentally what the problem is, right? Is that, like, if you knew what was going to happen, then I think that a lot of these questions wouldn't even exist, right? It's like, is this worth it? Well, like, I don't know. It depends on whenever Vaulton comes out. Is this gonna, like, is like my effort going to take, like, when is Vaulton going to come out? Like, what are the item levels going to be? Is it going to be the same as in Korea? Because I think it was like 415 in Korea. So, like, people are already hitting 415 now. So I think the biggest issue, in my opinion, is the fact that there's a lot of, like, other catch-up mechanisms that are in other regions that don't exist in the U.S. version.
So, I heard you say that. I actually disagreed with you on that because I think that a lot of those catch-up mechanisms, so you mentioned the Heroic Guardian raids, you mentioned, like, things like that. I actually think those would be bad for the game right now because I feel like it would just be too many systems and you're just adding to the daily loops that people are still getting comfortable with. That was actually something I disagreed with you on.
I think, like, I mean, I don't know if people are really getting comfortable with, like, just because the thing is, like, for anybody who wants to do that content, like, you're always going to have people that are going to be tired of doing whatever content there is and are always going to want new content for sure. But I think that for, like, an average player, giving them more activities to do or, like, a harder version, etc., I don't really see that as kind of overwhelming in the same way that I don't feel like players felt like doing all the islands at the beginning of the game was overwhelming either. Like, the same people that motivate themselves to do that, I think that they would probably want to do the same thing. And I think that to the extent that people are giving feedback that they don't have anything to do, it means that they're looking for something new to do.
Wait, guys, really quick, tell me do you hear feedback if I do this really quick? Do you guys hear that now? Because if you do, I'm going to take this off. You did, yeah? Okay. Oh, some people said no, and then some people say I'll just leave it off for now. I see where you're coming from. My biggest concern, though, with a lot of the things is adding, like, too many things that you get to a bloat level of, like, Path of Exile, right? And then instead of being, like, this game where you're logging on, it's pretty easy to, like, figure out over time and, like, explore which characters you like and all those things. And I think that I have an inherently different perspective than you because I've played the game as somebody who wants to play a lot of different alts, and that's something that I've really enjoyed about the game, regardless of whaling. Like, I understand that a lot of people think that that's a whale take, but there were always people in World of Warcraft who wanted to play a lot of alts without whaling or
well, I think being able to play alts is good.
Yeah.
Right? I do. Yeah. But I think that, like, especially in, like, for a lot of people, I don't really, I mean, like, obviously, like, we don't really have numbers to go around this, but I think there's a lot of people that want to focus on, like, one character because that, like, logically, that's what would make the most sense to me because that's what would have you not spend time repeating the same content. You know, like, because there's a lot of people that don't want to have to do tower 3 times or do, like, other one-time content on, like, every character. So I think there's a lot of people out there who do want to just play one character and be done with it.
Towers. Doing tower on every single fucking character is super unfun. I totally agree with you on that.
I think tower is really cool. Like,
yeah.
I'm totally fine with that, but at the same time, like, I think there are a lot of people that would not want to do that. It's the same thing with, like, not having islands, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people would just say, well, fuck that. I don't want to do that. I just want to play one character.
And I, as somebody who wanted to play multiple characters and didn't want to do towers multiple times, because I did enjoy doing islands once, for example, but I wouldn't have done them multiple times. And tower, sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. And the way that I get past doing tower is I spend money, right? And I feel like one of the reasons that Argos came out when it did is to try to weed out the people who aren't stupid whales like me. Now, I don't think that that's a good thing, but I think that that's probably, as a company, something that they were trying to do. Do you think that there's a chance that the reason that they put out Argos is right out of the reach of the average people who played the game a shitload is to try to get them to spend that extra bit of money?
And like, I think that it's reasonable to expect that, you know, like you're adding in Argos to like induce those like 1347 players to, you know, maybe put in a little bit of money. I mean, you're almost there, right? With $100, like you can get there, right? And like, this is a person who's already invested hundreds of hours, so like they're going to do it. You know, they clearly care about staying up to date with everything. That's why they're 1350 in the first place. So yeah, I do think it does take advantage of those people. But is it something that like Amazon particularly decided to do on purpose? I don't really know.
Yeah,
I would say like it's like Amazon has had a pretty bad history with this kind of stuff. But one thing I can say with New World, for example, is that they really haven't added a lot of like pay to win or like bullshit elements to New World. Like they actually haven't. That hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So it's like Amazon does not really have a history with the only other game that we'd really use as like a test case to say like, oh, this is for sure what they're doing. I would not automatically assume ill of them. And that's why I think that what's really the most important thing now is that I'd want to see some form of acknowledgement that this was a mistake, and, you know, them saying like, yeah, this is why it was a mistake. This is why we're not going to do it like this.
So funny enough, I actually dog marked this as something that I wanted to bring up to you on Allcraft. So I've actually played a lot of other Smilegate games. I was actually talking about them last night when we were on the call. Like Epic 7, for example, is one that I played a bunch. And I brought up the fact that we don't really know fully what Amazon's role is in the localization process compared to what Smilegate is actually dictating, right? It's like Amazon works for Smilegate.
It's like you don't know who's in charge.
Yeah.
It's like Amazon is the publisher, Smilegate is the developer. It's like, you know, just as well as I do. I mean, like, this has been like the publisher or the developer could be at fault in many cases. So it's like we don't really know who's doing it wrong. I think it's definitely put a lot of content creators, like I know people have like really roasted Stoops a lot about it, because like a lot of content creators have sold Lost Ark, including myself, as a game that respects the time of a free-to-play player. And it certainly makes people like that look bad whenever you add in something that has like this massive effective paywall to it.
People are giving Stoop shit?
Yeah, they were really upset about him because like he basically is, I think he kind of like overreacts to people that are just like super doom and gloom. So he's like calm down, you know, whatever, right?
It's all going to be okay.
Yeah. So people look at it and they get mad about that. But basically, I think that it's made a lot of content creators look bad for sure. And I think that's certainly, it's not like that's a big deal, right? Because content creators are still going to keep playing the game.
Yeah, because fuck Stoops, man.
No, I mean, like...
He's in chat.
Right? The thing is, like, if the game is good, people are going to play it. And if people are playing the game, there's going to be an audience for the game. And if there's an audience for the game, people are going to stream it, right?
Yeah.
That's just what it is. And so I feel like, yeah, it's certainly... And there's a lot of people that went into Lost Ark. There's many people, like, for example, in my community that... You know, they watched my video about Lost Ark. They watched me talk about it or whatever. And they were like, wow, this is, you know, like an actual good free-to-play game that, you know, yeah, it's got some pay-to-win bullshit, but it's fundamentally a good game. And so, like, now this is happening, and it, you know, it makes me look bad, too, in a way.
See,
because I've effectively misled people.
I do think my difference with you... I think I said in the video, I was like, I think this is where Asmon and I fundamentally disagree. I do think if you played Lost Ark in a vacuum, and you actually might agree with this, but let's see. I think if you played Lost Ark in a vacuum and you didn't watch a whale get down Argos right now, and you didn't have like those expectations of instantly needing to do it when it came out. And obviously, a vacuum is not what we play the game in. But I do think in a vacuum, the game is still perfectly good.
I think the game is still perfectly good fundamentally. It's still a perfectly good, fundamentally good game. That's why I'm still playing it, right? I've been farming like literally all day. And so, yeah, it's not that I don't think that it's a good game. I think that what it does is it's basically, it's like the Western audience is extremely sensitive to things that are pay to win. Like and I don't think Argos is really what the problem is. I think if they had released anything that was a 1370i level, I feel like people would have probably gotten to this point with just Orphe as well, legendary, right? Or with legendary gear, right? Because, and this is another case, is Orphe as well, as far as I know, on hard mode was 1355 in Korea. And so was Night Fox Yoho, and it got moved up to 1370.
Yeah.
So like whenever things like that happen, it makes you wonder like, why is this happening? What is the cause of this? And how can you not assume that it's something like people doing pay to win?
No, I do assume that is what it is. I actually think that it would have been fine if Orphe as well was in that higher range of gear score if it was there longer and people kind of knew what they were getting into. Because, I mean, I can't blame Smilegate. The one thing that I actually cannot blame Smilegate for is trying to make, like, over a year of their game last for more than 3 weeks or more than a month, right? I don't blame them for trying to do that. Because, like, what's the Guardians boss? Velganos? Is that his name?
Yes.
Like, Velganos, for example.
The 385 one?
Yeah, he literally was, like, the end game content in the game for a while. Wait, I want to say that was actually a good change against pay to win and carrying. Having Stoops? Were you saying that having it be 1370 was a good change against pay to win and carrying? I think he's talking about Orphe as well. But yeah, no, my thing was I actually think.
Is like,
go ahead.
Changing the game to like prevent people from doing pay to win or like getting carries. It's kind of like the same problem that WoW's run into. Is that like, think about, like, I don't know, Stoops, if you've kept up with the amount of things that have happened with like the tier sets in the new raid, but like Blizzard has invented like 3 or 4 new rules just in order to like throttle like world first race progression for tier sets. And it's like this weird thing where there's like 1% of the player base that's dictating decisions that end up making the experience for the other players worse. And I think that like it's almost like the idea of the road to hell is paved with good intentions, is that you're trying to do a good thing, but the process of that is not very good.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. I think that a lot of what's going on right now is they're essentially, every single player has a cost, right? Whether they pay to advertise to that player to get them to play the game, or if they're in a situation where that player is taking up server space. In EU, they obviously can't afford their players at all. But there's like
to quit over there.
Yeah, they really wanted to get rid of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if right now a lot of what they were trying to do with Argos was figure out every single person that they have deemed valuable to them, to keep them on the cycle and to get rid of the people that they feel like they're not making enough money off of. And I feel like, sadly, that is the future of the world. And the quicker that players fully understand that no developer will ever be their friend again, and it's just not that era anymore of game design, the quicker they will be able to take the good experiences and not get milked.
I think that if the thing is, like, a developer not being your friend is also a two-way street, is that if you develop a very transactional relationship with an audience, it's the same thing kind of that's like what happened with WoW, is that a lot of the reason why people gave Legion a chance, and people even gave BFA a chance after a lot of the mistakes that Legion had, and allowed a Legion to get better, is because they had developed that goodwill with their player base over the years. And now, like with Shadowlands, whenever Blizzard does fix something in Shadowlands, nobody really cares. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. And the game slowly bleeds out and dies. And I don't really think that's something that's healthy for the player base at all. Like being able to milk a handful of whales is just it's a strategy that has an expiration date.
It does.
And while it might be profitable temporarily, I think also, like, especially whenever you want to look at like Amazon, like it's actually a very bad decision for Amazon to go through that, even if it's monetarily profitable, because of the perspective that the perspective that gives people of Amazon is that right now people think of Amazon games and they think of like fucking New World, and like that's really, really bad. Like it's not good that people think of Amazon games and think of New World. And it's like they need something that is effectively an investment in the community, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so funny enough, like you used the New World thing, people still were willing to play Lost Ark even with that perception. And
well, that's because it was not developed by AGS. It's like people weren't even willing to give the Gypsum patch a try in New World, or they weren't even able to. Like nobody even tried. So like I don't know how much you've kept up with New World, but like they basically added in Mythic Plus.
Yeah.
And they
with mutations, right?
Yeah, mutations, mutators and all that. Like I didn't even do it. I know Shroud went through all of it, but I haven't done it. And it's like, why is that? Well, it's because people have already decided.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it just falls out of the mind of the player base. And so like I think Amazon, if they want to continue making games, they need to make sure that they have a W under their belt, because it's the same thing as like with Diablo 3, you remember? Like Diablo 3 was still whenever Blizzard was loved, and so like Diablo 3 had so many issues and problems, but people were okay with it because it was Blizzard. Now whenever an expansion or something comes out and it's not perfect, people just completely shit on them. And like it's like I can't imagine what Overwatch 2 is going to be, is because everybody's going to approach it looking for things that are wrong.
I will say, conversely, if Overwatch 2 is insanely good, people will find out. And I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think that getting trust in the player base is obviously very important. I think it's a no-brainer. I think you're like 1,000 factually percent true. Yeah. But the thing that I will say is now games, there are so many good ones, and they find us every single fucking time. You and me both fucking played the shit out of fucking Valheim. We found Valheim. I don't even fucking know who made it. Vampire Survivors. I think most of the people in the chat, put a 1 in the chat if you played Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors, made probably $2.50 off of everybody. Not even including Steam's cut, which was probably like something like 30% of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Steam definitely took a big cut on that. There's no backroom deal for a game like Vampire Survivors. The thing is the life cycle of games, none of them are going to be like WoW anymore. And I feel like, and I'm not saying that this is a good thing. This is just how I see reality. I know that this is probably going to upset a lot of people. I think trust is worth less than it used to be. Because if you come out with a good experience for the first few months and you fucking hit everybody's pocketbook super hard, I feel like a lot of them make a lot more money than if you just made $2 a month off of every single person. So like when you look at like a lot of these games that they come out swinging, like look at Genshin Impact, man. Genshin Impact, no matter what happens, it's gonna forever be a success because they made billions of dollars within those first few months, within that first year. And whatever happens at this point happens. That's infinitely more successful than a lot of other things. So that's where my questions start to arise, where it's like, are they going off numbers like that? And are they trying to basically tailor the game now for those people that they see being more valuable? Or are they trying to make the best experience for everyone? And I think a lot of the things where I was like, oh, I disagree with this, the second we talk about it, it's not necessarily a disagreement. We're more talking about
how to approach it.
Yeah.
Like how they should approach it. Because like it's like everybody sees what the problem is. Like I think almost everybody agrees with that. I think really what the issue is that like I think Amazon games, like this is like to a certain degree, it's like a legacy thing. And it's like if this is their second game that they're releasing, or they're putting their name on it, and like Amazon is absolutely responsible for Lost Ark, right? I mean, like you can't say it, Smilegate and Amazon doesn't have anything to do with it. Like they absolutely do.
Agree.
If they didn't, then you wouldn't have Gold River complaining about them. on the interview, right? And so it was obvious that Amazon has a massive hand in this. So I think if they want to continue like making games and not have people immediately be skeptical about them, then that's absolutely what's going to have to happen. And also like the trust and all that, I think that it really does matter, and there are a lot of one game Andes still. It's just that the games that there are one game Andes for aren't the ones that we're playing. You have games like I think Riot does a great job with League of Legends. League of Legends has people that pretty much just play that all the time.
Yeah,
I also look at a game like Elden Ring and From Software, and the fact is that like think about also like Endwalker. I think that's a great example. Is like Endwalker got released and the queues times and everything about it were just abysmal, right? It's just a joke, right? I mean, like imagine if Shadowlands had that happen. Like they were worse than Warlords of Draenor. Like they really were. Like I was there for both of them. Like
yeah,
it was worse than worse than WoD Endwalker was. And the players didn't care because they had that trust from the player base. It's the same thing with like them adding store mounts, etc. And I think that like that trust does matter whenever you have like the amount of people that buy them.
You know what I think is crazy though about 14 in particular? I think 14 they understand so well that the meta isn't trying to keep like they stayed with the more honest and trust gaining monetization stream, but they are very in touch with the user behavior. So they basically set up a game where it's like you can completely enjoy that game and fucking play the shit out of it for like a few months, and then they're like, okay, go off, go play everything that you're gonna play right now, and when we come back, when we're ready to release new content, we know that you're gonna come back because you do trust us and all those different things. So I think that they're like basically kind of
it's the same thing with Elden Ring. I
mean,
Elden Ring does have problems. Like some of the UI features could absolutely be better. Like people's complaints about it are not illegitimate. It's just that the gameplay overrides them.
It's kind of like the funny yin and yang thing that goes on now. It's like the companies that build your trust, they wait for you to come back, and they monetize the fact that you will come back. And then the other companies make the more grindy shit now. They're less honest with their monetization, but they keep you in loops with different things like the Jigsaw progression. You're inside of the Skinner box. They get a little bit of that sunken cost fallacy as well. They get the FOMO in there. They're just used car salesmen, and you grind that until the trusted game comes out.
I don't think that's a good idea because like you're already seeing like, and this is like more of a meta thing, like you can't play Lost Ark in Belgium and the Netherlands. I think there will be more countries just as time goes on, as like politicians and like government officials become more like tech savvy. They're going to see that a lot of these things are just gambling with an extra step. And whenever they realize that, it's going to be made illegal. And it's like what's going to happen is that type of game will just no longer be viable. It's the same thing as like if, for example, every Western country had the same laws that Belgium had, we would be playing Lost Ark still, but the game would be totally different.
See, this is the point. If you were typing in my chat where I would have banned you for disagreeing with me. This is when I would have pulled the Hassan. So like, I think, like that's the thing where I do slightly disagree, because I think for a lot of these companies, when they're going super ham, doing the monetization scheme when they can, I can't blame a company for doing it because they're making more money than a lot of these games would have made over the course of 5 years. And that's where I'm like, look, just understand as a player. Like that's where like I keep trying to tell people, it doesn't matter who's whaling, who's not whaling. Understand what they're trying to do so you don't get caught by the used car salesman who's sitting here going like, oh yeah, you want to do Argos? Only going to be here this week. If you miss it right now, you're going to miss it forever. She's a beauty. You can get it for just $100. I can slide you into it right now. You know what? I'll give you a discount. There's an event going on right now. 8 leap stones for the price of 1. Like if you understand that they're trying to do it to you, you won't get caught in it. You won't be in the place where you maybe spend $500 that you never should have spent on the fucking game, because I think that it makes sense for these companies to do it, because they're making, instead of making hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, they're making hundreds of millions or billions of dollars by doing this, even if the game doesn't last as long. So like that's kind of where the core of what,
effectively it's worth the
it's worth cannibalizing your product.
Yeah, because it just makes so much money.
Yeah.
And like that is like it's a black pill take, but it's true. Like you're not wrong. But I think that more and more it will just kind of be not possible, because I do think that it will be made illegal in more and more places, and then after it becomes illegal in too many places, it will just not be financially viable.
I agree with that, and that has happened forever in media and art and things like that.
Time,
yeah,
right? It's always the cat and mouse game.
Yeah, like I do think Lost Ark is one of those games that is doing exactly what it should do right now if you're trying to make the most money possible. And I think it just happens to be a very good game. And if you understand why they're trying to do it, you can have fun with it and try to. One of the things that you said is like the 1340 player is sitting there right now with nothing to do. I don't think that experience is that bad. I feel like if you aren't.
It's like I guess like my main point, because I have to get ready and go to sleep. I have to take a shower because I fucking haven't showered in like 2 weeks. Or
Whoa!
Something.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I know, it's a big day tomorrow.
that was a way more that I did not expect. I expected a lot of things on this call. I did not expect that.
Yeah, trust me, it's weird to say it, and yeah. So I guess like the point that I'm making is like the people that are 1340 are the 1% of the 1%, right? These are people that are like probably 1 in like 5,000 players, or 1 in more than probably 1 in 1,000 players are in tier 3 right now at 1340 item level. So like the amount of people that really could like realistically pay to win to get to Argos is like a small, tiny little fraction. And the amount of money that you have to pay realistically is not really that much. It's like maybe like, what would you say, $1,000?
Wait, to get from where?
Let's say like 1355 to 1370.
It might even be more. Dude, it's fucking rough. Like it's actually rough. So
I know.
I spent I spent on I have one 1400 character, two 1325s, and then a 1350 that'll probably hit 1370 today. And I got to, with the 3 tier 3 alts that now were like gaining me resources, like a shitload more resources, that I think I spent a total of $8,000 getting the 3 of them there. I got one character at free to play, and I'm playing nonstop with the additional resources. So it's not even fully free to play. Like it's literally, so 8K on 3 characters. They're now making me more resources and then accumulating resources over time. I got a character to 1330.
Yeah.
So like, and now I'm still going to need to spend probably $1,000. Like it's super fucking hard for a free to play player to get there. Don't disagree with you on that at all.
Oh, it definitely is. But like what I'm saying is like it's probably about $1,000 to get there. So like the amount of money that Lost Ark is really getting out of each person, I think is comparatively very small, because each person that actually is in a position to do that is like a 1 in 5,000 situation. And is that one person out of 5,000 people worth damaging the reputation of the whole game? Because right now, what I see a lot of people doing is they say, like, oh, I saw this about the game or whatever, and I'm not interested in playing it anymore. I'm not going to play it, and I'm in tier 2 or I'm in tier 1. So like you never even have those people get to the point where they would spend money.
Here's the thing that I'll counter with that, because if you were right about the numbers and you're like that is what it is, I think it's one of those things that everybody would agree is like actually like factual, right? But without knowing the numbers, how many people do you think don't fully understand that and might even spend money not understanding how much it costs? Like I feel like a lot of the people who watch streams are way more educated, and there are probably a shitload of players.
They think they're the norm, but they're actually the 1%.
Exactly. So it's like how many players?
Right. I do, but I do think that like just overall, the general perception of a game, like the same as like Genshin Impact or something like that, right? the general perception of the game does leak out. And it's like it does hit that mainstream audience, especially whenever there are things like this are happening. And I also think that like having something like Argos doesn't actually incentivize that many more whales, because a lot of the whales that I've talked to so far, they're not even spending the money to get to Argos. They want to get to 1490, right? They want to be the best player in the game and just lord it over everybody because they have a good job, right? Or whatever, right? Whatever the reason is. And they think that's funny. And so these guys do this kind of stuff, and like you're not like just having Argos in the game isn't going to, it's not going to bring those people out. Like these people were already geared for Argos before Argos was even announced. Like they didn't even give a shit. They don't give a shit.
I was already geared for Argos before it came out.
It doesn't like you're effectively like appealing to the whales, but the whales aren't like the whales aren't thinking the super whales, right? Like the big money guys, right? The people that are dropping, 5 figures, like high 5-figure numbers on the game. Like those guys are not thinking about getting up to, 1370. They're thinking about getting up to like 1470.
Yeah,
so, like,
I agree with that.
What they want out of the game is not even built around Argus. So like you're effectively securing an audience of people that you already have at the expense of losing people that are on the edge. You see what I'm saying? Like you're doubling down on something that you are going to have no matter what, when you're losing something that is like your lifeblood, which is like your free-to-play player base, and you're losing those people and alienating them in order to just give the whales one more thing that they need. They don't need another thing. They're already happy. That's why they were whaling in the first place.
I do think, and it's funny, this is actually the same thing that I was saying. I think that Argos only pissed off whales. I used NMP as an example, and I know that it's anecdotal, and I prefaced it with that. When you, Jesus fucking Christ, I just hear screams in the other room. I have no idea what Mia's doing. It seems like I don't know what her and her friends get up to. But the thing is when a lot of the whales saw Argos, and it's supposed to be like this endgame content, people like NMP went to me. They were like, I don't know if I'm going to play this game anymore. You actually weren't there last night when I was NMP and I got to the meeting a little bit earlier when we were talking to each other. Yeah. And he was just like, I don't know if I'm going to play this game anymore because it seems like the end game isn't going to be that fun. And it's one of those things where, as a whale, I think a lot of people actually felt that way. They were like, wait, did I whale for this? Because there are the whales that you're talking about, right? The people that they try to make their dick feel a little bit bigger by spending more money than other people. Yeah, they're Veblen good buyers, right? They're the people who buy.
People that like doing it too. They think it's funny or whatever, right? I mean, it's what happens. They're bored.
Yeah, they're the people that used to buy Rolexes to show off too, right? Like they're Veblen good buyers. They buy expensive wines just because they're like, ha ha ha! Remember, we spent so much money on this wine. We're so cool. But then there's also the people who, like myself, I like to whale for variety in video games. That's usually what I do. I have a shitload of alts. That's why Genshin Impact worked on me well, and you've heard me say that a lot. It's like I want to try everything in the game. I don't really care as much about other people. I want to try as many things as possible, and I'll spend money on that. And I don't mind doing it. And I think that there are, a lot of different motivations for the whales, but no matter what your motivation is, when you see the end game and go, wait, this is it? You're like, did I just waste a fuck ton of money? Are they going to switch things up? Like, also, like, you don't know when the honing prices are going to change. You don't know any of these things. So you're like, wait, what the fuck did I even spend my money on?
What am I doing? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the worst thing that you want to have people think is, like, question their decision.
Yeah. Rich has zero perspective for free-to-play views. I literally played games as free-to-play for a long time. I preface everything by
like we obviously, like all of us, it's not, the thing is you don't need some type of divine insight to understand why somebody wouldn't want to play a game that people have to pay real money to get advantages in. Like it's not some sort of like badge of honor of being free to play that you can't understand this experience unless you've done it.
Yeah.
Like everybody can understand this. It's a very simple idea.
Any
People don't want to play something that they have to spend real money on.
So many people want to have like the tribalism of like, you don't understand my struggle. You don't understand me being a whale. You don't understand me being free to play. You got to understand the devs want you to do that. The devs literally want you to identify with how you play the game, because if you identify as a free to play player, you're gonna pad their numbers for the amount of time that you play the game. And if you identify as a whale, you'll keep spending money for a really long time. And that's one of the reasons that these games tend to have over time, they will add a ladder. And what will happen is you'll talk to people who played like different games, like
They have a ladder in
yeah,
Korea.
because okay, so that's a very common tactic, because what you do is the person who's already spent money and they're like, oh my god, I've been a whale, I'm good because I'm a whale.
Number 7,
Yep.
I could be number 5.
Or I can't lose where I'm at. I can't fall back. So
Right.
they start pumping the money in to stay there. Even when we talked to Saint, he talked about being on the ladder. Actually, I forgot about it until you said it and I looked at chat. Saint literally said that he whales in the game not because he needs to, but because he doesn't want to lose his place on the ladder.
Yeah, he wants to stay on ladder.
Yep. It's one of those things where they'll do that a lot. So they actually do a lot of times understand that user behavior will be to do that, and they'll try to take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's very easy to understand why a free-to-play player would not like something, even if you're not playing free-to-play.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's basic psychology. It's the same thing as like, as long as you can understand like why people play video games, it's very easy to understand why they wouldn't be happy with something like, you know, the Argos release.
Oh yeah, and even as a whale, like I can see how impossible it is as a free-to-play player. That's why I actually did stuff with the artillerist the way that I did, because I was like, I wonder where somebody would even be if they were
just
free to
to
play
get an
and playing a
idea.
shitload. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like mine's going to be skewed because I had more alts, and even having the tier 1 alts takes like 600 gold for the first knowledge transfer, and then like for the tier 2 ones you're going to have to do other knowledge transfers. So it's skewed. My experience was still easier than the average person, and that character now is only got to 1330 before I started whaling, and now I'm going to have to whale it. So it's not an easy thing at all. So I do understand that, but also like I will preface stuff with the fact that I whaled, right? My experience is different.
Yeah, and that's just always how it's going to be. But all I'm saying is like, yeah, guys, a lot of people like we understand how it would affect the free-to-play player. I mean, it's a like I'm not trying to be like rude, right? But it's kind of obvious. And like anybody could see this. It's plainly obvious. So it's like, as long as you can understand like what at least like I think the psychology is behind like a lot of people, that like why they play games, etc. Everything else can make sense. But I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm gonna probably get some sleep and see. I just hope that we see a roadmap in the next couple of days.
We should
Or
do
at
all
least,
craft
like,
soon.
Yeah, I know. I really hope that they have something soon, just so we have like something to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah.
talking about a lot of this stuff could be fun, and then obviously we're doing that thing this week, so
Yeah, we're doing this thing.
yeah. So
See what happens.
yeah. So I'll see you. I'll see you in a few days, and
Yep.
get some rest and enjoy your shower, bro. Thanks for hopping on.
All right, for sure, man. I'll see you later.
See you, man. Yeah, like it's always nice getting to like actually talk, right? Because you see like those areas where you're like, oh, I don't disagree with this, and then you're like, oh wait, you're saying the same thing as me from a different. Like I'm just more of an. Get some hearts in the chat for Asmon. You're like I actually in a lot of ways was more negative about it, and he said like a black pill take. It's straight up true. Like I look at it and I'm like, this is what it is. We're not changing the way that they're going to monetize these games right now. That's how I feel. Like, I feel it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, this is reality. It's like this, it's like, I'm never going to learn how to fly, right? So I got to deal with that. I got to deal with the fact that I'm never going to fly and live my best life around it type thing. I feel so relaxed and safe.
Coast Guard
That's
pissed.
a real man.
The Coast Guard pissed.
Here, man.
Coast Guard
what
pissed.
A real man.
Coast Guard
Reel
pissed.
me in, man.
Coast Guard
I wish
pissed.
I was the
Coast
guy
Guard
on your
pissed.
line.
Coast Guard
But
pissed.
instead, I just
Coast Guard
motherfucking
pissed.
cry. Alone and I wish I could be your little smooth.